On May 14th, Marvel Comics and Conan the Barbarian broke up, ending the license agreement which had been in place since 2019. But as we detailed in our video breaking down what had transpired, that would not mean the end of Conan Comics, far from it. Once the licensing agreement with Marvel Comics expires, Heroic Signatures will move into self-publishing their own Conan comics, as well as comics based on their other Robert E. Howard properties. Now, courtesy of The Hollywood Reporter, we know more details. In this video then, we will break down how Titan will be the ones publishing new Conan comics, when they can be expected, and how this may tie in with a bigger push for all things Robert E. Howard. While Conan and Robert E. Howard rights holder Heroic Signatures, itself a subsidiary of Funcom, can easily recruit the talent pool required to create a new line of Conan comics, the printing and publication of those comics is best left to someone who already has the infrastructure in place. Hence, the license will from 2023 onwards be issued to British publisher Titan Comics. Titan's comic titles are distributed to the direct market by Diamond, while their collected editions are distributed to the book trade by Random House. That is significant, because as The Hollywood Reporter writes, the deal covers not just comics but also graphic novels, as well as remastered archives, including the Omnibus program previously published by Marvel Comics. In other words, Titan won't just be able to print new stories, they'll also get reprint rights to the vintage stories. This is par for the course. When Dark Horse had the license from 2003 till 2018, they reprinted almost every Conan comic Marvel had released during their original 1970 to 1999 run, including the complete run of the Savage Sword of Conan. When Marvel regained the license in 2019, they could reprint not only their own vintage stories, but everything Dark Horse themselves had written during their 15-year run as well. Now it is Titan that will get to reprint all of Dark Horse's Conan stories as well as Marvel's vintage and modern Conan stories as well. With the likely exception of Savage Avengers, that is. Due to the number of Marvel characters in it, I would imagine that stays with Marvel. Everything else should revert back to Heroic Signatures though, which means it can be reprinted by Titan Comics. Even the original run of Savage Sword of Conan. So, when can we expect to see any of these reprints, and more importantly, new stories? The Hollywood Reporter writes, Titan plans to put out a line of original comic books based on Howard's creations, starting with a new Conan the Barbarian title as an ongoing series set to launch in May of 2023, to coincide with Titan Comics' 10th anniversary. Alright, May of next year then. That's not too bad, considering that Marvel still has the license until the end of this year. That should allow them plenty of time to come up with a stronger relaunch than what we saw at Marvel. See our previous video for my issues with that. The Hollywood Reporter also said, miniseries based on sword and sorcery characters such as Puritan evil vanquisher Solomon Kane, red-haired mercenary Dark Agnes, and Atlantean adventurer Kull the Conqueror are due to follow. That sounds exciting, albeit somewhat ambiguously worded. Are they saying we will be getting limited but dedicated Solomon Kane, Dark Agnes and Kull comic book series in addition to regular Conan? Because that seems kind of risky, seeing as Kull at first glance and to the uninitiated might look like poor man's King Conan. Which he isn't, but I can see why some would jump to that conclusion. And Dark Agnes is a largely unknown commodity. I reached out to Fredrik Malmberg, keeper of the Conan legend, for comment. Since these are still early days, he couldn't confirm or deny much more than what is already out there by way of the Hollywood Reporter. But he did suggest that for at least some of those named, appearances in an anthology magazine is more likely than a dedicated regular book. He couldn't get into any more specifics, but based on that, I would speculate, and I stress this is my speculation only, but I would speculate that what we will be getting for or shortly after the launch of the regular Conan comic is some kind of anthology magazine, something modeled after either one of Marvel's vintage Savage titles, or perhaps more likely, Dark Horse's anthology magazine, Robert E. Howard's Savage Sword. That one even had a Dark Agnes miniseries. While Solomon Kane also could feature in such an anthology magazine, I would imagine that he is the strongest contender for a regular title alongside Conan. Time will tell. But this all goes beyond comics. The Hollywood Reporter article continues. The comics deal between the two companies comes after last year's book deal regarding Conan for all new novels, short stories, and illustrated art books. The first project from that pact is the novel Conan, Blood of the Serpent, due to hit bookstores October 18th, followed by Conan the Barbarian, the official story of the film, a behind-the-scenes hardback retrospective book due out November 2nd. I'm looking forward to both of them, and that's actually more Conan books than what we've seen published in many, many years. And what is even more exciting is that this would appear to be but the first push in a major Robert E. Howard revival. Continuing the article, we have been working with Titan for a year on the pro side and established a good foundation for expanding our business together, said Heroic Signature's president, Fredrik Malmberg. When it became clear that Heroic Signatures would publish our own comics, it was natural to partner with a team that we have known for decades. Their expertise in publishing is stellar, and we couldn't be more excited to launch a barbarian horde of titles like Conan, Solomon Kane, Dark Agnes, and many more together. And there you have it. That is what is known so far about Conan's comic book future, as well as book future, beyond Marvel. And on paper, it looks very exciting. Now it only remains to be seen which creatives will be bringing the new adventures of Conan and his brethren to life, not just in comics, but in books and in live action on Netflix. If all goes well, there will be a lot of Conan, Solomon Kane, and other Robert E. Howard properties coming your way in the next few years, and we will of course give you the most detailed and informed commentary about it anywhere on YouTube. To make sure you don't miss out on updates, please smash the like on this video, hit subscribe if you haven't done so already, and indicate you want notifications on all videos. If you're already subscribed, please take a moment to ensure that you are still subscribed, as this platform does have a tendency to unsubscribe even regular viewers without their consent. With that, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments.